We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to.
Welcome to the NBZ podcast.
Everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was.
NBZ.
I just told you. That's who I think I am.
I'm a terrible person who's come to believe unforgivable things.
Will be episode 4 of the NBZ podcast, and this is Nick from Present telling you that we're going to take a trip back to when I wanted to do the NBZ podcast a long time ago, when I was working as a bartender and I used to talk to my coworkers and regulars about stuff that's on my mind. So this will be episode 4, and I probably will upload a bunch of episodes, old NBZ podcast episodes, to fill in while I am not producing current episodes. There are things that I want to talk about aliens and stuff that's happening over our skies right now, and all sorts of stuff. I'm working on this out-of-body protocol with some friends. Hopefully we'll get some podcasts with that in the NBZ podcast roundup, but I want to put out content. This is what I got right now. So enjoy this old NBZ podcast episode. All right. Episode 4 of the NBZ podcast coming to you from Buckley's Queen Anne. What's up, guys? We're back again here up in the office. And this time I have 3 other guests with me. 2 of them you've heard from episode 1. I have, again, Chris Doherty.
Hi.
And I have Austin Scott.
Hello.
And for today, we're bringing in Kenan Isett, who
Hi.
is a regular here at Buckley's and a friend of all of us. Now, this podcast is going to be a little different. I talk a lot about aliens on my free time at work, and I ask people questions, and people ask me questions, and we debate, and I kind of spread knowledge to people who don't really know or have ever heard of the stuff that I'm talking about. Now, Kenan is a lawyer, so I'm bringing him in from a standpoint because I want him to question or think of the things I'm telling him from a lawyer standpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell a story. The story is going to be based on how the secret space program started, and these guys are going to jump in and ask questions as we kind of step through the story.
And we're going to see if these aliens are really following the law or not, aren't we, Kevin?
Exactly. That's my main
point. Just
Yeah.
I like the way lawyers question things and the way lawyers look at things. So it's like,
Sure,
that's
yeah,
why I want to
totally.
definitely have him dig into the ask questions that I might never heard before.
Sure.
Now, for full disclosure, Austin and I know the story.
Yes.
So we've heard the story in depth.
There's a collusion between us.
Yes. So it's not a fight or a war or anything, but Austin can chime in from my standpoint for sure. I think I've told both these guys this story, but not in this entirety like this. So it's going to be interesting to see, how it works out. All right. So we'll start. So the secret space program, let's just tell people what that is. The secret space program is it's basically it's a breakaway civilization from the Earth. So we have I call it the narrative. The story goes that we have currently lots and lots of human beings that started on this planet and now live in outer space on Mars and on spaceships out off planet.
And other planets, too, not just Mars.
Yeah, other bases in other places.
Yeah.
But Mars is a large conglomerate.
Basically, there are currently colonies of humans elsewhere.
Right. Millions.
From Earth.
Right.
Not just, yeah.
Right. Okay. So it started with the Nazis. So when the Nazis were getting their ass kicked in World War II, they knew they were going to lose, and they took their brightest and smartest and broke away to Antarctica. So they moved their best scientists and whatever projects they were working on down into a base in Antarctica, and under the ice kind of base. And they knew about this because they had contact with some extraterrestrials. Now, I'm going to pause there. How did they know about the extraterrestrials? How did they get the contact? Okay, so at the time in Germany, there's a group called the Vril, and the Vril were a very loving and benevolent group that were kind of reaching out to the cosmos to speak to
extraterrestrials and kind of get a two-way communication.
Can
So
I ask how you spell that?
vril,
Yeah.
For real?
VRIL. I don't know. I can look
VRIL.
I
It's
would
either one or two L's.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I've seen
Yeah.
that spelled. Yeah.
So it's a group of women. I'm not say all women, but they're mostly women that were doing this kind of. I'm gonna say channeling, but it's like a communication with off-planet beings, extraterrestrials. And the Nazis found out about this, and they were like, "Hey, we want to talk to the people that you're talking to." So they communicated, and the Nazis got in touch with the negative extraterrestrials, which sometimes there's many other races, but let's just call them the Draco. They're reptilians,
And by negative we mean
malevolent, like they mean
Bad.
They're
Just to clarify.
The reason why they got together well because they vibe on the Nazis and the reptilians were on the same kind of vibration, negative, overbearing on humanity,
like a domination.
Yes,
kind of
exactly,
perspective.
exactly. So the Draco / we're gonna call those the reptilians the Draco, and the Nazis, they were communicating like, hey, listen, we have some space in the Antarctica where we were doing some things, and you can go ahead.
And to go back, is that were they communicating through the Vril?
Well, the Vril got them in touch with each other, and then they,
So the Vril kind of taught the Nazis how they were learning to get in touch with.
I'm not sure if the Nazis
extraterrestrial-
still after that they still had the communication, but they met up, I guess.
Oh, okay. So there was kind of a
Like, hey, well,
the
let's
Vril kind of facilitated some sort of
the
meeting.
communication.
Well,
with
that doesn't sound very benevolent.
No. Well, no. So okay.
Well, if the Vril acted as a middleman between
Right.
But the Nazis were like,
I was
I'm
envisioning
I'm motioning with a gun to my head, like, hey.
So they threatened them. Is what
Yes,
you're saying.
exactly.
I was envisioning either threatening or a deception of some kind, but
At the same time, when they're doing that, when they're trying to get their spacecraft off the ground, they did kidnap another scientist, which I've written down his name because this is kind of important.
and FYI, guys, I haven't actually heard all the stories that Nick is like. I generally know the gist of things, but he knows a lot of things that I haven't really researched. So he's going to say a lot of things I've never heard.
They kidnapped this scientist, Victor Schallenberger, and he was doing a lot of research on anti-gravity, and he showed how he looked at salmon swimming upstream and how they moved up the stream very quickly without a lot of effort, and he broke it down to the torsion fields that move around an oval shaped.
Vacuum.
Yeah, sort of like like what he did. He replicated salmon in a controlled environment with an egg. So oval was the best shape. Well, salmon aren't oval, but they have like somewhat.
But
yeah,
the
Fish
space that they would travel
generally.
through would have to be oval.
right.
And elongated, like
Exact-
football.
Yes,
sort of
exactly.
space.
And as with a little bit of effort, you can get a lot of movement, and it's because of the torsion fields that move around the space as the water goes by.
Yes,
And
there's fluid in
yes,
there.
it's it's a
So it creates a. I think I've heard about
It's a
this.
torsion
like
field.
It's like a
call-
torsion field. It creates like a vortex in the middle that
right that kind of
actually propels things up it.
So,
that's-
you just said contortion field.
Or
You
a
said torsion
torsion
field.
torsion
Torsion.
field.
Can you please define torsion field
Yeah,
better
what
than
is a
that?
torsion field?
It's like swirling energy.
But is that not caused by the vibration of the actual fish?
The slight movements of the fish and the movement of the water
The
past
movement of the water going into the space, probably.
You mean like when they're swimming upstream?
So I think what he's describing is so torsion. I think is like twisting. So like an area is like physical twisting motion. I'm gonna look it up.
But anyway, so that's he was working on things like that, like of working on anti-gravity via those models. Nazis kidnapped him, took him down to Antarctica also. So now we have all these great scientists down there, and we have the craft that the Nazis were working on that weren't flying at the time. They go down there with Victor and the Draco, who also have craft, and now they have craft that are flying. They're up and running. The Nazis have flying craft. The Americans don't. We've kicked their ass. World War II is ending. Now the Americans go into Germany and steal the rest of the best scientists they have left over because they've taken
Those who didn't go
Right.
to other countries.
basically we're talking like like they took the MLB of the scientists.
Well, yeah, especially the head of NASA
Right.
at the time was a fucking Nazi.
Right, but he's second tier. He wasn't first pick.
He had. You know what? First of all, I got to say, it sounds like we're maligning the Nazis.
And that's not fair.
Yeah,
Right.
because they can't. There's nobody representing them here.
Well,
I mean, unless Chris
Kennan.
is- oh yeah.
In addition to Kennan being an attorney, he's also a full-fledged
Yeah.
Nazi.
Right.
that's an important thing to note.
Yeah, we should have started with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full disclosure.
All right.
All right.
So now we're painting the picture that we have some Nazis down in Antarctica that are working on craft, and then we have some Nazis that the U.S. stole that are now in the U.S. They're now part of NASA.
Did they like kidnap them, or did they make like agreements with them, or like how was?
I'm not really sure how the U.S. took them. They took information.
Acquisition.
They took papers. They took once they won.
Operation Paperclip is what it's called.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty,
I
was
forgot.
assuming-
I have heard of that.
I was assuming everybody knew that, but
I have
Operation
not heard
Paperclip was a historical event. It was basically the code name for that, like the acquisition of all these scientists and things from Nazi Germany, and so they were like people in charge, so they had to cover it up because people wanted them dead instead.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't want them to work for us.
so now
Right.
Yeah.
now I'm gonna kind of paint this picture simply.
Okay.
So, because I don't want to get into too many details, but so you have Nazis in Antarctica, Nazis in America. Now the Nazis in America are working on. They're still working on our like They're trying to get advanced whatever the Nazis in Germany were working on.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna try to get that stuff. We stole them so we can get their best technology, whatever weapons, whatever. And then you have these two people aren't really communicating, these two groups of Nazis, but the group in Antarctica has now have flying craft, and they're like, okay, we got our asses kicked by the U.S. because they had more tanks, more planes, more bombs, more guns. So they have an industrial infrastructure that's built to build stuff and just kind of mass produce with Hughes Douglas,
Boeing,
Sikorsky. Like there's so many. Yeah.
Also, by the end of the Third Reich, weren't the Germans overextended?
They had like territorially spread real far.
Really far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
So now what these Antarctica Nazis, they want to get more planes, more ships, and they want to populate space. They want to try to go out there and do some shit.
Right.
The Draco also gave them some space on the moon to build. So the moon it's like a very territorial, and you can't be in anyone else's space easily. No one's going to let you just plop down and build something in their space. So the Draco
just
said,
like land rights would be on the
right,
Earth.
right. You can't just come into Montana and build in someone's backyard.
So the Draco and some other extraterrestrial civilizations have kind of carved out spots on
Yes,
the moon.
everybody has a spot on the moon, and we didn't have a spot, and they gave us some space, and they try to build some. They failed a bunch of times building a base on the moon, but they finally got something together, and it looked kind of like a swastika, is what I was told. Like picture 8 shipping containers in a swastika-like formation. That was the original base that was on the moon. Mm-hmm. But all this time they're trying to populate space and go out there. They're trying to ask the U.S. government to let's team up on the low, like we want access to what you have, please. So then they're doing this by saying, hey, Antarctica Nazis and U.S. Nazis talk, ask them,
collude.
Yeah, hey, ask them, ask Mr. Eisenhower, will you talk to us? Will you please, they're like, no. Military brass is like, no, we're not getting in bed with you. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. But in the meantime,
Which makes a lot of sense.
right, the Operation Paperclip over here that's working on Nazi stuff or technology is like, hey, they overheard that the top secret of within the government is that above the atom bomb that was being worked on and all that stuff, don't let the Americans or any population on the earth know that extraterrestrials exist.
So it was like an Illuminati group?
No, I wouldn't say Illuminati. I'm saying top military brass. Illuminati, I don't even want to get, that's something else.
So what you just said, I just want to clarify what I think I heard. So top military brass
And the president.
and the president understood through this acquisition of their Nazi scientists
Those Nazi
that
scientists.
what the biggest secret was that they held was the extraterrestrial
Yeah, it was
presence.
like just don't let people know that extraterrestrials exist.
Okay, so at this point, the military brass knows that.
Yes.
Because they discovered that from the Nazis they took over.
I don't know how they discovered it from them, but I think they knew from Roswell.
figured it out
or,
through
yeah,
the-
other means they knew.
Right, and Roswell did happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so the moon,
The moon, yes.
right? There's no visible evidence of it having been there.
What?
This,
This base?
yeah.
Dark side of the moon, the back side. The moon is tidal locked with the Earth, so we always look at the front side.
I know.
And
true.
It's probably on the back side. I should know
Actually,
exactly where
It's
this
a little
is.
chilly there.
Actually,
Yeah, it has just very little atmosphere. Right?
David
No, there's
Wilcock.
n- there's
David Wilcock is
No atmosphere. It's a fucking moon.
Right.
It's a dead rock.
who is the
We don't know this is
mutual-
dead rock. We don't know that for sure. But
It used to be alive. Like all those craters they think that were
Right.
were made by meteor strikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been disproven because meteor strikes don't hit straight down and create a perfect concentric circle.
supposedly it's a fucking spaceship that was brought here.
No, it's been determined that they were there's a term for it, but they were craters made by volcanic action. Because a volcano, when it blows like that, there's no sideway. Like, say you skip a rock across, all you just throw it into sand, it's going to be more of an elongated oval-like splash as
Wouldn't be
opposed
a
to a perfect
circular-
No,
yeah.
that never happens.
Okay. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about volcanoes. Supposedly it's hollow on the inside and it's
I
an
thought
aircraft
it was made of cheese.
aircraft that was brought here and it can't move anymore. It's kind of whatever. But that here
So,
nor there.
I was gonna chime in. You said you didn't know if it was on the dark side of the moon, the Nazi base.
Yeah.
Or
They call it the LOC now. It's a lunar operation.
in Ascension Mysteries, which is a more recent publication from David Wilcock, he did state that it was on the dark side of
Okay.
the moon, and that's some of your sources.
Cool,
So I just
yeah.
wanted to fill you in.
Dark side of the moon. Yeah.
We have
And we're talking
we have
about
actually
1945, like
We're talking
basically-
19. So we're talking 1945, 1950.
1950, yeah.
So now
Okay.
I'm talking in between these like 10-year period where it's a 5-year period where they keep asking to be a part, and I'm about to get to the part where the Nazis figure out the Antarctica Nazis figure out how to make this shit happen.
okay.
Okay.
And do they still call themselves Nazis, or is
I
there
don't
a
know.
different-
I don't
Okay.
know.
I mean,
Or like the Fourth Reich.
No, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know what they call themselves.
it's kind of an offensive term, generally.
Yeah,
It is.
I-
I'd prefer to
I
call
keep-
them by what they
National
prefer to be called by.
Socialist.
I want to call them something else. I don't know what to call them.
Right, I don't want to offend them at all.
I don't want to piss these guys
I'm
off.
sure they rebranded.
Let's call them the Dark Fleet because eventually they get
Okay.
called the
The
Dark
swastika
Fleet.
used to go clockwise. Now it's counterclockwise. It's kind of a
And Nazi is like a trigger
change
word.
up
It's very much a trigger word. So probably people
Totally.
hearing
Yeah,
it. So
totally.
let's call them the Dark Fleet.
okay.
It sounds very Star Warsian.
So
Yeah, it is.
just
When
to
you-
clarify, the Dark Fleet would be the group that moved to Antarctica.
Yes.
Formerly Nazi Germany moved to Antarctica. Now is Dark Fleet. The
Former Nazis.
yes, former Nazis which went to America. What
We'll
And-
call them paper.
what did they become? Okay.
Well,
the
then what
paperclip
about those
scientists.
who went to South America?
They're running Nazis. They're running
There
There were tons.
There were tons in Argentina,
Mm-hmm.
especially.
I don't know much about. I've heard those rumors, but
I've
don't
heard-
They
know.
we're rumors. They
I've
were
heard that-
documentaries.
No, yeah, it's
There
real.
were when
I've heard that
Israel got involved.
Supply down to Antarctica. I've heard that was kind of like tied, but I don't know. I don't know if it's.
All right.
I haven't heard a lot about that.
Well, when Israel got involved, they came looking for all these war criminals, and there are tons of documentaries on they hunting for years and years. Doctors and officers who were, allegedly responsible for a lot of war atrocities, and in several cases they found them, but it was years later.
Wow.
It's
In
crazy.
South America?
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
right.
there's that series called Hunting Hitler, and it was kind of the premise of it.
But
Except that they actually say that Hitler himself went down to South America instead of dying.
I've heard that rumor too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
me
on
too.
the History Channel. I saw a few episodes. It was interesting.
God, the History Channel blows. It does. They'll air stuff that's non-verifiable crap.
Totally.
So
Yeah,
that should
totally.
actually go to the Sci-Fi Channel.
Well, they already wore out all the verifiable information.
So let's extrapolate and fake it.
We're all out of history at this point, so
Right.
we
There's
gotta come up
nothing
with
else.
something.
Everything else
ever?
goes straight to CNN, so it's like, no, now
Right.
what?
Yeah.
All right, so now how do the Dark Fleet actually get involved with U.S. government? Now, they know that the biggest secret, don't let people know that extraterrestrials exist. So what do? They take their flying craft. That works. And they fly 3 of them over the White House in 1955. 55. And they fly them right over the top of the White House. People are like, what the hell is that? Freaking out, like, what's going on? It's in the paper. And they say, and the next day they're like, okay.
What paper?
The Washington Post, like whatever, like, you know,
Okay.
the newspaper.
Not the Inquirer?
No, like official, like, you know, people, everybody saw lights. People took pictures of it. What was that? I don't know. We're scared. Okay.
That seems like reading a lot into what could have been a number of unidentified.
Okay. That's so,
Objects.
you can look it up. Like 1 week,
I think that was the point. They were
1 week, 3 lights.
distracting people.
Yeah, totally. They're like, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I believe that, but
No, it's fine.
it's a good way to do it.
well,
You're talking plausibility.
Plausibility. So let's just say there's no plausibility in the fact that in the week of 1950, I think I want to get Austin, look these dates up for me.
1952 Washington D.C.
Yeah.
UFO incident,
June.
also known as the Washington Flap, was a series of UFO reports. This is all from Wikipedia. by the way.
Wikipedia.
Yeah,
Was
that's incontrovertible proof right there.
Was a series
good
of
enough.
Time out, Austin. Hold on. The thing we're talking about is within a
But
week.
do you want somebody who's just going to agree with you?
No, I'm not. No, but we need to establish the fact that actually 3 lights were seen over Washington, and then a week
But
later.
your only source is Wikipedia?
No, you can look up in more
Okay.
pieces.
All right, all right.
But I'm not saying why. We're just saying that we need to establish that it was true that 3 unidentified flying objects over Washington, and then 7 days later or 10 days later, or whatever, it happened again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to establish without any kind of like airy
Okay,
fairy.
so here's a post from the Washington Post about this. It says this was in July 21st, 2002, and it says 50 years ago, unidentified flying objects from way beyond the Beltway seized the capital's imagination. So
Did the White House have anything to say about it?
I'm skimming it right now. It's just going over the account. It appears that they had both radar and visual views of the jets, and then
Who
they
did?
So there was, what's his name?
I'm assuming some kind
Controller Joe Zacco saw a strange blip streaking across his radar screen.
So he was
looked
with
out
the
window.
military?
He was with the Washington National Airport air traffic controllers, and then they scrambled jets. The jets flew up to intercept them. And this happened several times over. It looked like a period of time. There was maybe multiple periods of time. There's maybe multiple days this happened.
Yeah, it happened twice, like within 10 days.
And then
Okay, so
Yeah.
was that just some form of demonstration?
That was to say the first time they're like, "Hey, listen,
Right.
let's sign a treaty. Let's get together." And the U.S. and the military brass was like, "No, we don't want to get in bed with you."
And they said, let's show you what we can do.
No, they're not firing weapons or anything.
No. Let's show you guys what we're capable of.
Nope. It's just like they knew that if they keep doing
they're
this,
threatening to out
it's
the extraterrestrial
if
presence.
you keep flying UFOs over Washington and your people are like, "Hey, military, you can't stop these lights, or what are they? You're not telling me what they are. I don't know." And then
But the military's
if you keep doing it over and over again, they're going to be like, eventually the people are going to be like, "What the fuck is that?"
Aliens exist. It's not just another nation. It's not like
Yeah.
it's something supernatural or
They forcing their hand to say like, we're gonna do this treaty or not.
it was like a blackmail tactic almost.
with just about any conspiracy of any variety, it's really difficult to keep that under wraps. So I find something of this magnitude incredibly difficult.
Right.
That's often people's they retort. They say like this is too big.
It's a solid retort.
What like so you're saying just why? Explain. So the fact that at this point the military and the President Eisenhower signs a treaty that says, okay, we'll get together with you, we'll work with you on populating space and making better craft and whatnot and yada yada yada. Why is that such a crazy at this point in the story right now?
Well, I don't know if crazy is the right word. Incorrect, maybe.
How? Just in this poke holes. Tell me.
Because it's all conjecture. I have no proof. There's no
I
proof.
don't have any proof either. I'm just telling you what the story is.
Well,
I think it's
answering the
plausible.
question. It's plausible in a novel.
Really?
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
it's plausible in real life too.
It is without one little
Right.
bit of proof with tons of people involved.
Right.
Okay.
You know how difficult it is to keep
I
a
know,
secret.
that's the thing.
It's so difficult to keep a secret amongst 3 people.
Yeah.
Now think about
Okay.
involving
The top.
1,000.
Okay. Yeah. Totally.
It's not nothing is gonna leak, and not just the information, but like some actual proof isn't going to leak. That sounds totally implausible.
I agree with that, except it sounds like some people have leaked stuff over the years.
Right.
And
Proof or again, it's leaking information
Right.
or proof.
No, leaking information.
Ain't no
not-
leakage. No, but it's really like the proof can leak, and those people get discredited, or they're just like, no, we don't believe you, or everybody because the programming is so deep that unless people see the thing land on their front yard, they're like, well, this guy's saying things, and
I guess I was gonna make this point, and then I felt like it was a silly point. It was a silly thing to say, but the more I think about it, it kind of makes sense. I guess I don't have proof that aliens didn't show up over the Washington.
Well, it's
because
it's
I wasn't
impossible
there.
to prove.
So everything that
it's
I've learned
impossible
is
to
through-
prove a negative.
True, but everything that we know of history is based on accounts that were written before we even existed.
With physical
So-
evidence that they happened.
Yes, but then
What
Some
do you
physical
think?
Let the lawyer chime in.
There's not a whole ton of evidence out there for any of the shit that we've seen over the course of history.
Well, I'm not talking supernatural stuff. He's talking
No,
about
no.
history.
Right. No, me too.
Like what?
Anything.
Like,
Name
you know,
anything. Like any
pyramids. They exist.
Well, yeah.
For a
they
long
still
time,
exist.
that was only rumor.
But the official story of what the pyramids did or something is still controversial because
And I find that fascinating, actually. It's
Yeah,
fun to
it's
think about
totally-
that because
totally.
they're built so crazily.
Yeah,
But
clearly
there
aliens.
are things that are undeniably true today, just based upon the variety of sources where we can verify the information with. And then there's things that are starting to be challenged more by. My opinion is that most of the people who have tried to out this have been snuffed as conspiracy theorists or
Kooks, yeah.
or wackos, and then it went on for years and years, and then nobody has ever been open-minded to it since then.
Because they get disproven.
Right. Well,
what is disproven?
I don't
You're
think-
saying that you have no proof. You're like, shut up. You don't have no proof. Go home.
I think
Yes,
sometimes.
exactly.
I
How's that
think
disproven?
sometimes they get
Because you don't
disproven.
have evidence.
That doesn't mean disproven. It just means that there is no evidence to prove your point.
It means they weren't able to produce.
yes, I believe what you're saying is correct. However, a lot of these people, whether they were actual kooks and they were proven to be by investigating their interior, whatever personal lives, and they're like, oh,
This guy has anal leakage. That means he's a leak. He's like,
boy, is there something going on with your black
I
hole?
know. It's
Yeah, this space talk is kind of getting.
I'm kidding. Because these people are like former military people that are like, I'm gonna die soon, and they don't give a fuck, and they say shit, and it's like, okay, well, people are saying things like that.
And
all
what
the time.
what do they stand to gain from that?
Nothing. That's why they're telling. Like, it's like, hey,
They stand to completely destroy their own reputation as a,
True.
so many starred general or whatever they do.
That's why I believe.
Wasn't it weird when Armstrong adhered so heavily? When he was walking on the moon, but it was en route.
Something happened to my mic right there.
Oh, yeah. Don't move that.
Sorry,
What the what?
I'm
There we
moving
go. It's
cables.
back. He fucked everything up.
I did.
It's over.
We're
It's
gonna
done.
we're gonna have to start this over.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to this in-depth podcast.
Anyway,
Yeah, but
So- Go ahead.
I'm agreeing with you with what you're saying. But there have been astronauts who have said, "I don't know what it is, but it's moving." Not in a
Sure.
typically
They see something.
bodies,
Straight
meteors,
line.
whatever. They're all straight lines. Nothing
Zigs and zags.
is articulated movement that doesn't have intelligence
Until the
behind
Foo
it.
Fighters.
Oh yeah.
The Foo Fighters. No, the name the Foo Fighters comes from a phenomenon that was observed from pilots in World War II, and from early astronauts as well. And they started. There was just an overwhelming amount of claims that these pilots were seeing lights. Sometimes they described metallic
Objects.
bubble shaped craft, cigar shaped, disc shaped, like all the stereotypes that we'd think of. And they're reporting that these objects are moving with incredible agility, turning at incredible speed, approaching at such high velocity that they can't escape because they're military craft. They're trying to evade whatever's coming at them. They see this thing coming at them. They're trying to evade it. They can't. It turns out it's not threatening, but it immediately speeds off. So they dubbed them Foo Fighters. And if you look it up,
What is the Foo?
I don't know where that name comes from, the etymology, but that's actually what the name is of the band is named after.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just thought they forgot to
There's a slew of
add a D.
the Food Fighters.
What was that?
Stupid.
Oh, nothing.
So
But again, that doesn't actually prove that those are alien craft or anything.
No.
It's just that they see something.
and it doesn't just because there's no proof doesn't mean it's not true.
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
Yet, with all of the sightings and all of the claims,
Nothing
there
has been brought forth. Nothing
Well,
has
there's
been
plenty
produced.
of footage that's easily manipulable.
Sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
and have been disproven by
So-
way of artifacts.
Okay, that's fine. Also, let's stick back to the story of these lights that were said. And again, there's no proof of that. Suppose there's some photos out there that people took.
There's
Again,
some anecdotal.
That's fine. I'm not saying it can be proven.
That's
It can be
not
proven.
proof.
That's fine. That's fine. It could not be true. That's okay. But
It's not true.
part of this
there was
story,
plenty of claim. It's in the newspapers at least.
It's not fucking true.
Right.
somebody saw it, right? So
So-
even the lawyer says that.
Some fucking
Shut the fuck up,
fucking
all of you.
lunatic.
Anyway,
Go ahead.
this is like a crucial piece of the story, so I have to concentrate on it a little bit. Okay. Now, once they sign the treaty, the American military says, like, okay, you know what? We'll sign a treaty with you, but because we're the bravado of the American people, and like, yeah, we're just going to infiltrate this whole organization. We're going to take it over because we're Americans. We kicked the shit out of these guys before. We'll do it again, right? The opposite happened. You can almost say that that Dark Fleet won World War II because these guys sunk their teeth into our all our infrastructure so deep that there's no way that's how the military industrial complex was built. This incident is how it started, and that's why when Eisenhower was leaving office, he
Beware
gave
the
that,
industrial complex.
that iconic speech that goes on, and because he gave it away, he signed it away. He's the one that did it.
Man,
Is
I
there
think
a
that
copy of the treaty?
No, there's no copy of the
Okay.
treaty. Obviously, no.
Okay.
Of course, the lawyer would ask that.
no, it's exactly. There's no proof.
There's
Just
no
making that
Do
clear.
we still have the
But-
paperwork?
Right.
But when he
Who
saw
actually
it,
signed it?
Yeah. Is it filed? Which court is it filed with? Is it?
Can I dispose this guy?
see, I had always
gonna hold
thought
them to
that
this treaty?
what he was talking about when he said beware the industrial complex is that it was a complex that wanted to be at war.
Oh, that's true too.
Because it made money.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
Yeah,
That's where we're at now. I mean,
Total, be a continuous war, nonstop for sure, and that's what
But
they love.
I think that there might be something.
we're only 200 plus years old, and we've been in 10?
It's
That's
a nonstop.
fucked
it's,
up.
it's a business.
Exactly.
All right. We have to shoot the bullets before they go dead.
Run out, yeah. We have to spend more money next year, so we got to get rid of these.
Yeah.
Right. It's a big money making
It's
machine.
called not wasting money, and it's also called preemptive strikes.
And there's always someone to shoot. Like right now, it's Syria. Like,
gonna be a new
they
target.
gassed some.
Yeah. We're
Babies.
constantly
False flag attacks.
we're
on-
fighting
Yeah.
proxy wars all
Totally.
over the place. We just arm people.
Well,
Yeah.
it's become privatized. That's what's
Yeah.
a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eisenhower So they say the military thinks they're just going to take it over. No, the Nazis, the Dark Fleet gets their fingers into these infrastructure of Boeing, Sikorsky, Hughes Douglas, and the rest of the military. I mean, the military companies that build their jeeps, planes, yada yada yada, and they're building spacecraft. They get the information, and which is transferred to them via packets, and you can look up William Tompkins because right now he's the whistleblower that's giving the actual information of how this information was disseminated. He said that they would be dropped packets of information, and the engineers getting the information wouldn't know what it was, but they would kind of spend time deciphering it, pulling it apart, and then eventually they'd be able to realize that this is a propulsion unit. It's a map for a propulsion unit. This is how we have to implement it. This is a map for a chair that is now that melds with your brain for navigational unit and yada yada yada. So
what William Tompkins? What is his background?
He is he worked with. So when you talk about secret space program, so that's the whole. Everybody out there is kind of lumped in the secret space program. William Tompkins worked specifically with the Navy, and now the Navy's off-planet space program is called Solar Warden. And again, you can look up any of this stuff. In Solar Warden, he designed the massive ships or naval cruisers, I guess you would say. So, and again, I'm gonna have to go back to Star Wars. That's the only reference we have that we all know that.
Do you mean the movie or do you mean the 80s program?
I'm talking about the movie.
Okay.
So when you see the big, huge triangular shape destroyed, that's what he was. He designed something similar to that.
And we're not talking like the Christmas special. We're talking like the movies.
Where everyone was clearly not happy to be there and drunk.
So, sorry to interrupt, but
No, you got it.
throw that in there.
So he designed huge ships like that would fly out, and
Like the triangle.
they weren't triangle. They were similar looking like that.
Okay.
But they were like giant, like huge, just like you think in Star Wars. They're that big.
Were these built on the Earth?
They were built in spread out all over the place, but I think he references Utah as a underground base where some of the stuff was built.
Okay, where were they assembled then? All these pieces,
Like the final assembly point. Do you know, like where it left port? I guess you might say.
I don't know where. So again, some of these bases are spread out all throughout the United States, and also some of it's underwater. So a lot of these craft take off from underneath, like middle of the Pacific Ocean, and that's some of the kind of free space that they're allowed to just take off and go straight up into the atmosphere or outer space.
Yeah, outer space.
Okay, so go ahead, Kevin. Okay, so the Navy, the Navy. So that's basically the story of how we got out there. Now the Navy has a group of. At this point, that whole thing grew.
So the Navy. So just to reiterate everything. So the Navy got information. Let's simplify down like the last, like up to the Solar Warden.
Yep.
From past. So what exactly? So what are the factions that we have now?
We have Solar Warden.
Okay.
The Navy's, which is Navy, and then we have what we call lower level military industrial complex.
Okay.
Which is Army.
Okay. And they don't have extraterrestrial.
No, they do. They
technology.
They have a base. And they have like little craft and stuff like that. But they're not as advanced as the Navy.
Okay. And these are compartmentalized. They don't know about each other.
No, not until recently. That's now you're gonna bring it up to kind of current day. But
Okay.
I don't
But
want.
still, for now, they don't. At this point, they didn't know about each other.
Right.
They were separate programs.
Right. And then there's the ICC, the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. Now, what that is all those companies I named off earlier. The
Boeing, Ford,
Hughes Douglas, Sikorsky, all those people.
Okay.
They have
military,
but they're the ones that are creating the most bleeding edge, the best technology that humans have out there. They create technology and craft for Solar Warden for the military industrial complex.
And they've been provided with the technology from Dark Fleet.
It all started from Dark Fleet.
It all started from the treaty that they made with Dark
Right.
So no, the Dark Fleet is no longer a part of the story.
No, the Dark Fleet is also part of this whole thing. Also,
Okay.
they have
It's in some kind of agreement or
they
contract.
they Dark Fleet also gets craft from ICC.
So they basically trained ICC, which is the conglomerate
started
of
it.
all
They
these
started
corporations. They started it, and they gave them the technology to build anything that.
They started it. So the reason why the ICC has this stuff, the best of the best, is because they have built stuff on Mars. They have built like a base on Mars where they basically make technology. They make timeout.
Still
Pause-
getting
Pause
interference.
for a second. I'm getting like a little.
Yeah, I'm also getting like.
I don't know what it
I
is.
don't think it's mine.
It's not that bad.
It
though.
could be something.
No, it's just.
It could be a product of like.
It's also plugged into this computer, so I don't know.
well, it's very
Where's
very.
the power source from? That's
It's
might-
the
the computer.
computer.
Oh, that might be it.
Anyway, so the once where was I?
So ICC was formed
ICC's
to
formed,
create products for all of these.
but they needed people. They needed people to. They built bases on Mars.
ICC did.
ICC, like I'm talking, to house 2 million people.
Okay.
And
like
how
a
to-
manufacturing base.
Right. And they trade their technology that they build with other races.
So is this way far in the future? Or is
This is
back
now.
This is okay.
Well-
This is what you just said is like nowadays, but back in the 50s, what?
What got them there?
Yeah, like how did they get out to Mars and like how did that? But so back in, but like right when we right back to the point where we were talking about 1955, they weren't at Mars.
No.
Okay,
They were just starting out. They needed
Okay.
Hughes Douglas and to start to help them
All right.
get out there.
Well, let's not jump ahead too far. Let's.
Okay.
So you said.
I did kind of make a leap there.
Yeah, I don't want to get too lost because I'm actually I don't think I've had this broken down for me. Actually,
Okay.
I've skimmed over a lot of these details. So Dark Fleet contacts the Nazis that are present in America.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Fleet makes a treaty,
With the United States.
meets with representatives or whatever from the corporations that are working with the United States military, trains those people to build.
Well, they kind of
create, like, a
implant.
separate-
So all those people, all those high end Nazis from Dark Fleet, some people just get planted in those organizations
Oh, okay.
and kind of
Okay.
high level.
This is getting extraordinarily convoluted.
Okay,
It is.
Let me.
For there to be no evidence, all these cogs aren't. There would have been something
What?
that the layman could view and go like, "Oh, that's odd," or like a layman scientist.
Supposedly, everything that we see, and those craft that everybody says, "Oh, look, there's aliens." We got video of it. Those are all us. They're not extraterrestrial. They're like crafts that we've built.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like
But I don't-
area. Go ahead.
Area 51 or like whatever. Those stuff like that is. stuff
Yeah.
that-
It never seems to happen in a city setting.
Arizona, Phoenix Lights.
It's always Phoenix Lights.
I don't know, Mexico City. You can look up. There's like you can YouTube
Mexico
many
City lights,
things
Hong
that are
Kong-
like
Hong Kong lights.
for there to be so many sightings and so many things that people see all the time, and you
But
get like all those people aren't
You
crazy.
might be mistaking.
They might all be crazy. There's a
It-
lot of crazy people.
There's a lot of cra-
there's,
but-
it's not just that. It's also really exciting. Like, that's why you have a lot of people who go and UFO hunt or Bigfoot hunt or whatever.
Well, yeah.
There's still no physical fucking evidence for it at all. And we talked about this last time about the imprints in the. Anyone can
don't
do
get
that.
anywhere near Bigfoot. Let's just stick on.
No, but I'm saying I'm not going into Bigfoot territory. But again, there's no evidence.
Okay.
There's no proof.
Well, where
Well,
do
if
you,
there
What
were,
would
then-
you need? What would you need?
Where
Sorry,
does proper
let
evidence
me
come
ask the
from?
lawyer. Let's ask the lawyer. What would you need to say that this story is true? Like what?
I think it would be impossible to prove, no matter what evidence you had. I think it's more of a belief against it than anything. There are some situations where people just aren't going to believe it, no matter what. So no
Well, I
matter
mean,
what,
I understand that
evidence you
too.
provide, and this could be one of those situations. I doubt it, frankly, because I don't believe it. But it is kind of a belief thing. You're like, oh, well, that can't be true because it doesn't fit into my brain. It doesn't fit into the.
Yeah, you're talking truth versus fact.
No.
Yeah.
Well, what is a
What's a
truth?
fact?
What is a fact?
Once you experience it, then it's a fact. Personally, that's how I feel about it.
Right. And you have people testify all the time, and they're like, well, I saw something happen. And you're like, well, what's the proof of that happening?
So
and
you
they're
guys
like, well, I
intimating
saw
that
it.
everyone's experience is bunk because the
No.
other person...
No.
Hold on. Because the other person didn't have the exact experience?
I think ultimately, yeah.
Well,
So
then
it's-
that means everything is horseshit, and everything that comes out of your mouth is garbage.
Thank you. I think that's actually probably kind of accurate.
And now we're done.
All right, guys.
So-
Thanks. That's been episode 4.
We actually discovered way more about life than we wanted to in this episode, and we're all gonna need some time to think about this.
From when I was a kid, I always believed in that stuff, right? But as you get older, it's like, well, okay, investigative reporters have found that the person who produced this footage or photograph, they faked it, and most of the time they don't admit it, or they do, but they had a long history of being a con artist. It's like, okay,
Sure.
well, you kind of like kicking the legs under the table.
So what's So I'm constantly torn because I have a math degree. I spent plenty of time studying scientific methods.
fairly certain it's pronounced math.
Math degree, mathematics.
Math, yeah.
I studied
Thank
my
you.
mathematics. Theoretical mathematics.
Theoretical. You put the fear in it.
So-
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm torn. I have this aspect of my personality really likes to prove things with logic but at the same time, I can totally see. I don't see proof of this happening. I see a grand possibility for there to be
Well, see that
a manipulation.
I'm sorry, but I have to interrupt there. This is exactly what I was intimating
Well, there's no
earlier.
proof of anything.
This is what I
Let's
was
start from
intimating
that.
earlier. There's
Like-
plenty of people who want to believe. They want to believe so much that they will
Yes.
create
I think that's
bullshit.
true. I think
to
that's
get
true.
other people behind them. And then there's a mass of people who believe in something that. Think about Jesus Christ.
Okay, ready? I got another one. So we're bartenders. Chris is a bartender. Austin's been bartending.
I've done it before.
And Ken.
There we go.
Hey, actually, no. I'm pointing this towards Ken. This is great.
Okay.
Go.
So, and I was gonna phrase this towards the bartenders, but when someone's telling me a story, because people throw bullshit out of us often. Like, yeah, I did this. I'm like, and sometimes I'm like, fuck off. I don't say it in my head, but in my,
with 30 girls
Yeah.
last night.
They all had horns.
Okay, do you want your bill yet, man?
yeah,
Or what do you
exactly,
like?
basically, right? So you can read through someone's bullshit pretty good, and when you ask them certain questions, it's like, okay, how does the person react? How do they handle that question they may not have heard before? So. For me, when I listen to someone's testimony, I'm watching single piece of information they can get from them to see, like, this person's probably or this person really believes what they're saying. Maybe they might not be telling the truth, but they really freaking believe what's going on.
No. They're telling their truth.
Their truth.
Because they believe in it or want to believe in it so much. Think of all the abductees.
Right, but there might be some questions that someone would ask that would clearly would show the fact that this story is bullshit because they don't have an answer for X.
Well,
Y,
I
Z.
think that
Yeah.
it depends upon how many times they tell the story. By the time that it gets to you, they could have told the story 100 times.
True story.
By which point they could have,
Failed
sussed out
several times.
all of the
holes, plot holes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can perfect a story where they're ready for any of your questions, however, difficult to answer.
What do you take when you're at testimony wise? Is there anything you look for as far as?
I've got to say no. Like, I've seen so many people testify. I've interviewed probably thousands of people at this point. I can't tell when they're telling the truth. I really can't. Yeah.
Wow.
Like someone like Steve, he thinks he can, and he's like a former cop. Blah blah blah. Well, look, I've got spidey sense. I can tell when they're lying.
I hope he hears this.
No, I hope
We're
he
gonna
does
send
too.
this to him.
You're welcome, Steve.
Yeah.
No, I've talked to him about this too, and I'm like, I just don't have that ability. I don't. I don't need to make decisions on that level. If you're a cop, of course you have to. You have to like.
Right.
make
Well, you
decisions
got to do it in
pretty
a
quick.
very immediate sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got an immediacy to your
But I've
discernment.
I've met and talked to so many people that tell completely opposing stories. They both believe the story 100%. They both believe their own version of the story, and I'm like, I don't know how to tell the difference. And that's not really my job. I feel like as a defense lawyer, my job isn't to find the truth at all. It's to help my client, and that's very different from
Of course.
finding the truth.
Sure.
But I've given up on believing in truthness or truthiness or whatever. It just doesn't. I don't know that it really exists.
Okay.
It's just people's different perspectives of
An
something.
event. Yeah.
Yeah.
I picture it like truth exists out there,
Well, that
outside of us, outside of our perception. Truth actually is existing, like, between us. There is this physical table.
But it's
That's
not.
between us.
That's not that physical if you break it down
That's not a
anatomically.
table.
Sure,
That
but
is not a table.
That's my knee.
we could all experience it, right?
My knee.
Is that really your knee? That's a
Hello, governor.
It's a very narrow knee that you have.
But it's got a cap.
Wow.
Go.
So we can all experience this table in front of us. We aren't going to all experience it in the same way, but there's enough shared experience that we can definitely say, yeah,
We can
there's
agree
a table,
upon
there's
it.
a table here. Maybe one of us is colorblind and cannot detect the same color that we all, and we'd say it's cream color, and he's like, it looks gray to me. And, there's the difference, but that doesn't mean that the table itself doesn't exist. But when it comes to history and historical fact, most of our knowledge is heavily weighted on the groups of people that have distributed the knowledge to us, which are the educational system.
Well, no, the winners.
Published authors,
The,
the
winners
winners.
write history.
Right. And then when we're confronted with evidence that we don't have enough to back it up, we're challenged, like, should I keep searching and researching? And then you could eventually find more evidence if you keep looking, but are you tricking yourself by continuing to look? Are you like asking for it?
Yeah.
It's a tricky, with conspiracies, with things like this, it's really hard to satisfy the logical and the...
Okay, I got one more piece of this story that I want to
All right.
tell.
Sure.
Go.
Okay.
Okay. So I told you about these bases that are on Mars that are supposedly being built, right? And now to populate those bases that the Dark Fleet has built, it's really the ICC. It's not the Dark
Okay,
Fleet.
so this is right where we left off.
Yeah.
The Dark Fleet helped create
helped-
ICC,
So ICC
sent them up to the moon
no, they're on Mars. They're making
in the 50s,
They're making late 50s, early
late
60s.
50s. Okay,
This is like 60s, early 60s.
this is after the...
They're making space on Mars to build bases, very large bases.
Okay.
Now, they use some 5th gen nukes. There was a race of entities living there, and they've nuked them. They blew out the space that was in this area, and they started to build. They build very large bases.
Makes me get really warm feelings for humans.
But this is some shitty shit. So now to populate these bases, they took the best and brightest from on the Earth and brought them up into off planet, and they sold them on saying like, hey, there's going to be a major cataclysm on the Earth, and you've been picked for a chance to go and help.
And this was
Not the day the Earth stood still, but there was a 50s movie that was sort of about that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
I was gonna say the brain drain.
Yeah, I'm alluding to the brain drain. This is what happened. So 60,000 or so people. Like you could look at you can Google brain drain also and see like there was a lot of very smart people that left the Earth from 1960 to 1970. Done. So those people and their families thought they were going to live in paradise off planet somewhere. They get to
That's what the travel brochure said, at least.
they get up to Mars, and
It
now
sounds like a more successful version of the Heaven's Gate, folks.
and it's basically
It didn't work for them so well.
They're slaves up there now.
Turns out guns are not a form of transportation.
They just poisoned
Oh, it was
themselves.
cool. It was like a Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
They all took Yeah,
okay,
they're all
okay.
dressed in white.
I'm mixing it up with a different
there are so
mass
many of
suicide
them.
story. Yeah, why not?
The end of my story says that
So-
all those people are up there being are slaves, and they're working for this ICC building shit. They don't want to be there. They never signed up. They obviously signed up for it, but they weren't promised. What they got was not what they promised.
They were misled.
They were misled, right?
All right, so how did it work having humans on Mars when there's not a livable atmosphere? You're saying that they did it like The Martian? It was all enclosed?
Yeah, it's underground.
What evidence
Which the
photographically
soil
is there for that?
does
There's
protect.
plenty. There's well, okay. I don't want to say there's plenty because I have no proof of.
If we go back to that
We would do
anomaly that looks like a...
this. So you're looking for like a telescope of a little bump on that has an entrance on Mars, there where spaceships can fly in, and underneath there's a huge base.
Yeah.
No, there's just...
There's plenty of those too.
Are there?
Yeah,
Awesome.
you can look. You could like.
My mind is wide open. I don't know.
That's how you. That's how I think you need to look at this. Is like, okay, maybe it is true, maybe it's not. Well, what in the end, what does it mean?
The only problem is that I'd love having an open mind, but if it's too open, it can be susceptible to
STDs.
fuckery. It's like, oh, is that really? You become Dolly Dimple.
Well, no. Obviously, if I say something that's absolutely insane, you would question me, and I'd be like, well, I don't have an.
Why?
Well,
This is why I'm questioning
I
you
think
now.
the real
Because it
healthy
seems insane.
the real
You think
healthy
it's
open
insane.
mind is
Okay.
taking in everything.
I
and
love it
questioning
as a
everything.
story idea. I love it as something to play with, conversationally.
Yeah.
But to take it seriously, or to not take it seriously,
Even
to,
if
to say that if I don't take it seriously, that I have a closed mind, that's
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying.
There's
I'm
no
saying
way.
in general.
There's no way anyone should believe this story on first take at all.
No, it's actually I was at Nick's bar on Monday night, and I was actually talking to a guy, and eventually I just said, man, I respect you and you're a smart person, and I actually don't think that anybody who tries to vet information out, who has a skeptical mind, who's using their perception, I don't think any of those people would believe me on the first take, because I've spent 6 or 7 years reading books that led me to where I'm at now. And if I hadn't read those books, I would still be in that person's shoes, not believing a single drop of anything.
But there's so much horseshit that is sold to us as truth,
Absolutely.
or nonfiction or fact, and it isn't.
But
it
even-
just fucking isn't.
But I would argue that even history itself
It's
is
obfuscating
in
your
that
focus on
category.
actual things.
Oh,
I think-
now we're talking.
I
Actual
think
things?
living,
What is an
uh,
actual thing?
Like now,
Taking
like
care of
actions.
yourself,
Oh,
taking
well.
care of the environment.
Yeah,
exploring
sure.
instead of the
Getting
idea
close
of
to home.
Yeah, instead of exploring space, how about I can hear better like this? Instead of the idea of exploring space, still technically the furthest we've ever traveled in space was Apollo 13, because we went around the dark side of the moon.
with a human, because we've made it way past.
Right,
way
we've
past with.
shot
no,
rockets
that's what I
up
mean. I'm sorry,
Okay,
that's what I
okay,
mean with
okay.
humans.
Yeah, was Apollo 13 because we went around the dark side.
And came back.
Do we question here? I don't really know about space science that much. Sure. Do we have satellites going around the moon or Mars or anything?
Well,
Seems like it'd be easy
there
enough.
is a satellite going around
Well,
the moon, I think, and
Just
the
like
way
taking
that I
pictures and shit.
that's why I think that there is, because there's actually you can find a whole photo of the entire surface of the moon, and I don't think you would
Yeah.
be able to do that without a satellite, because it's
Yeah.
tidally locked, like Nick said. You wouldn't.
Right.
You'd
Right.
have to get
Which is
something around
fucking
it.
silly. How many other tidally locked celestial bodies are there? I would
Actually,
wonder.
that's actually in terms of space. That's
it's
actually a
pretty
pretty
common.
common.
Very.
thing. It's because of the if you think about the phenomenon of a body breaking into multiple pieces in space. Let's say that you've got this thing and it gets hit with a
Well, it's a-
projectile, and then it splits, and then it's been spinning this whole time, but it splits, and now these two things are spinning, and the sides that they broke off
So you're
from.
saying the moon is a piece of the Earth?
That's what the conventional theory is.
Right.
So
Really?
Makes no sense
that
to
is
me.
that is a conventional theory.
Yeah, like
and
an
it-
asteroid hit the Earth and the moon chunked
That's
off.
one of the
I don't know
conventional
enough about
theories.
it.
But
I don't
but
like that shit. That sounds stupid.
but
Yeah, the rest is all plausible, but
the
horseshit.
tidally locked bodies are about as common. I think they're about as common as they're uncommon. I think that there's plenty that aren't tidally locked, and there's plenty that are.
Okay, cool.
So it's kind of like, how does it happen? It's like if we could see the whole history of the object, what hit it, then we would know why it spins that way. But without knowing that, it's all speculation.
The one thing that's keeping the majority of the asteroids and meteors from like fucking with the interior of the solar system is Jupiter.
Yeah.
Because of its gravity well, it is pulling all of those things away from us, more or less.
It's sweeping
Thanks, Jupiter.
up all of the particles that are out there because of its.
Well, it's pulling them closer to it.
right. It's like a vacuum cleaner.
It's like a Roomba.
yeah.
Only
It's like
they're
a Roomba.
still around. It's
Just for
like
us.
a dust blower.
Just for us humans.
Oh, thanks, Jupe.
Thanks, Jupiter.
Garbage out there.
Jupiter sure does serve our needs. I really enjoy it.
Me too. Did you hear that? You know, they've got that red eye of the storm. They found a blue one now on Jupiter.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's where my story ends. I have no more
Do you want to hear
information.
some shit
but
about
that's really
Jupiter?
cool.
Okay, so basically, let's cap this story. So basically,
go.
that's kind of all I have as far as how we got out there. Now, around this whole
Not out there.
whatever you say, man.
You gotta have
I'm
a
like,
skeptic in
I'm
there.
like, honestly, it's funny you say that. It's.
I mean,
'cause-
we are by way of satellites. And
Nah,
Voyager
it's
and
it's,
shit,
it's
but-
really funny you said it. So Austin was the person that introduced me to this whole thing probably 3 years ago, and when I fucking dove into it, I was like, no fucking way, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, the more and more I dug into it, and the more. So let's give us some more background.
I introduced it because we had been talking for years before that, just about general concepts, like, hey, this isn't what we think it is, you know?
Right. We talk about off.
Well, I love that kind of thinking.
Right.
Honestly.
One
But
day-
it does need to be poked and prodded.
Right. One day I happened upon an author who just really, I have to say, out of any author I've ever read in my whole life, even nonfiction authors that aren't controversial,
Are you talking about nonfiction author or a fictional author?
I consider it to be nonfiction, but most people would consider it to be conspiracy theory. But he cites his sources. That's why I consider it to be such a nonfiction piece. And his bibliography is 2/3 of his book, and it's a hefty like.
That doesn't
book.
mean that he's not citing other bullshit.
No, but when you look into it, it's just numerous military scientific people that, you know, it's like. I agree with you.
No, it's exasperating because
And
you can
it's the
take a
kind of
little.
thing
You
I
can take a
couldn't
little
convince you one
information
way.
from. You can take a little information from something that is held to be accurate. It's proven. It's factual.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just take a tiny bit of information and marry that to fiction, and
Right.
say that is part of your bibliography.
Right.
And so, oh look, he cited whatever. And so there's got to be some hint of truth to it, and that's not the truth at all. It's mixing lies with fiction
Right. But that
for some sense of verisimilitude.
I now believe that is exactly what happens with all of our information streams, including news and everything. So it's kind of like it's a discernment game.
especially in this day and age. I think
Like
Yeah,
people
I
are
know, but
super confused.
They're probably more so now than
This
ever.
hour of podcast that we probably put them through.
Yeah, they're just like, what the fuck are these assholes talking about?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I need to drop a name. So, Corey Good is the person that I'm referencing. Austin put me onto this story about how Corey was actually taken to one of these bases and was inspecting it taken to an ICC base on Mars and was inspecting it. And it was a story how he got in some trouble. Long story. I don't want to tell the whole story, but you can read it on his blog, Sphere, SPHERE, beingalliance.com. And just go back to the beginning of his blog and read it from the beginning.
Corey Good is spelled CoreyGoode.
Yep. So, but the thing I was talking to Kenan about earlier about looking people in the face and listening to their testimony. He has a show on Gaia TV, and I watch his show every week. and I'm looking this guy in the face, and I'm watching him speak, and there's no
But he's not looking you in the face.
he's solid. No, he's not. He's looking at the camera.
Yeah,
he's
I
looking
know.
into the host. But
That is different.
If I can take anybody's word on what I see them, like obviously I'm listening to him speak and how he tells his stories, how he's being asked questions and responds to them. He says he doesn't know when he doesn't know, or this is what I learned. It's all like
It's a pretty candid interview.
super.
I watched
candid.
him for a few hours. I think you.
Yeah, I sent
me
him a link.
for
It is
while
pretty.
ago.
It is pretty candid.
He definitely believes what he's saying.
Candid
Yeah.
does not mean true. And being, certain of
Right.
a thing does not mean you're not insane.
No, absolutely.
But he's
not.
not.
I actually think he is insane, but because he believes it so deeply.
Right, because if you believe it that
Without
well
question?
and it's not true,
Yeah.
then
But what if
would
you
be insane.
experienced it? What if he actually experienced it? Wouldn't he be telling the story the same way?
Yeah, exactly. He would.
I don't know that I would if I didn't have any evidence.
Well, he has evidence in his head. And
Again,
he doesn't
it's
give
not
a shit.
physical evidence.
He doesn't even care if you believe him. That's part of his whole
That's-
shtick. It's
So
like,
do a lot of these people.
I know, and they're all fucking insane. But again, mind open. I'm like, I don't know.
But when you see an insane person, like, so if this Corey Good was a backwoods redneck dude on a tractor going,
No.
to
See, now that's like
I'm just saying, are you would you respect him, or would you respect this guy who's
functional,
yeah?
makes more money
Neither.
than any of us.
Neither.
No.
So who the fuck do you believe? If Obama came out and said it, would you believe him?
fuck no.
Okay.
What? I didn't believe.
Especially not
Think
him.
of all the things that. Well, especially because think of all the things that he promised before.
Okay, fine. What person would who I don't know who would I put before you to say that?
If I were to talk to you,
Yeah.
or you, or people that I know and trust and love, and they told me because the majority of our conversations are very sober, clear-minded
Right.
conversations,
Yeah.
and they said, and you've got a long history of being sane.
And saying that
And
I
you
saw
said,
this shit.
Yeah, and you talked to me about this. I'm like, that would make me pause, and I would be like, what? And then I would ask I'd throw
Litany
a
of
volley of
questions.
questions,
Fuckload of questions.
Right.
and just and
Like,
not
how
not
much
to
have
test
drank?
you
How
so
much
much
did
as
you smoke? How much
Right.
did you?
I think even before that
How
it would
much
be
sleep
the
did you
actual
have?
specifics.
Oh,
But it
this
has to be like your specifics,
Right.
Right.
yours,
Right.
and then it would give me it would prick up my ears.
Right. And then you would process it through your
What
Well, I
if I
would
were to
think
tell
about it,
you
but-
that I've been writing that very story and I can recite it to you right now? I'm just
I still think you're full of shit.
No, I see what you're saying,
No,
but
it's like it's like a game of telephone.
I
in
just
some
want to
fashion.
counterpoint is the reason that you would believe that person, is that the same reason that you believed the story of all of the world history so
I
far?
don't believe all of it. Again, it's written by the winners, so it's a much
Right.
larger story than we get a lot of. Because oftentimes a lot of history that we read is revisionist, and I enjoy revisionist history, but I don't trust it.
Right.
I mean, there are a few truths, actual facts, truths in life that you can rely upon all the time. You can expand from those. But if you get so far out there, I love entertaining those ideas. I
Well-
love it so much. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to poo-poo that.
Here's the thing: did somebody come
I,
to you
on the
and
other
say,
hand, would love for somebody to well, I would love to see that shit myself, for one. And I know that there's tons of eyes in the world, and there's cameras now, so we can shoot cars running into other cars or people, or violence and mayhem and natural disaster. The only thing they've ever been able to catch that's semi-supernatural, whether it's ghosts, whether they're all false. Every fucking one is false. So how can you put your trust into some claims that seem equally erroneous? As a kid, I was duped too many times.
All right. I find this often. The people who have been gone through something where their trust has been eroded are very this story is impossible.
That if anybody's thinking about the world or witnessing whatever they're watching, they're watching shit, they should also be in that category.
But take for instance, so my go-to is 9/11 when I people The government story was that a plane hit the Pentagon, and then these buildings fell because the plane hit the Pentagon or hit the Twin Towers. And I have two truths away from that story that are totally against what the government says.
Like Building 7?
Nope, nothing to do with Building 7. There's two truths that
That's a great point.
That's a great one, but I don't want to fight that one. The one that I've loved to go to first is the type of plane that the government said hit the Pentagon did not hit the Pentagon. Number one.
What?
So the government said a 737 plane hit the Pentagon at this height, at this speed, and it made damage to the Pentagon wall, and that's what made this damage on the Pentagon that you see. Mm-hmm. I say that's impossible.
The Pentagon thing's a little weird.
Okay.
It really is.
There was no damage from the wings. It was just a hole.
And there's no damage, period. There's no wreckage. There's no engines. There's no nothing.
There was a hole in the wall. That's it.
Yeah, that goes through a few levels.
It didn't even hit the lawn.
So
there was no...
The truths that I take away from that, and I wasn't there, I don't know, but I have eyes and I have logic, and this is what I base my my truth on, is that from what I know a plane looks like, and from what other video I see of planes getting destroyed, because there's videos out there of planes being destroyed.
Sadly so.
There was no way that planes could break and fall in and go into this hole and then disintegrate. It's never gonna fucking happen. No
and there
way.
wouldn't be a twisted piece of metal outside the wall,
Yep.
or there wouldn't be a...
And it would be a way that you could show me some video, because supposedly there's
see what
video
you're
all over
saying.
the place. There's no way. And so that's my number one. And number two, and this one's a little more controversial, but I think that the buildings did not come down because of the planes hitting them. They came down because there was explosives in the buildings. Now, I don't want to debate anything else outside of that. Mm-hmm. Just that one fact that they came down because of explosives, not because of some pancake bullshit. I'm not a physicist. I don't know how jet fuel burns things and whatnot, and I'm pretty sure anybody else who says that it went the other way doesn't know those things either. They'll just believe popular mechanics or whatever the fuck else people tell them.
Somebody put forth a scientist, who I believe is a real scientist, but they hired a scientist to say whatever they needed.
Well, or that scientist really believes that the shit happened the way the
Right.
government said it.
But
Who cares?
that's the person you hire. Is the person who really believes
Doesn't
it.
matter.
Like,
I just don't think those are my
we
two
want
things.
to
I
we
take
want to
away.
run a story that 9/11 happened because of the airplane, so we hire an engineer that says that this is possible,
Fine.
and then vice versa. It could go the other
Right.
way.
And
Hire an engineer who says it's not
wait.
possible.
Out of
What's
curiosity,
the other theory about what happened?
The other theory is that there were explosives, like he said.
Right. No, I've
Is
heard
that-
that.
yeah.
The pancake theory is what the government said. The planes hit on the 77th floor. And then
Okay.
the weight
And then the weight of the
Supposedly
falling
brings them down.
floors created
Well, it
enough
wasn't
inertia
at
to,
free fall
to
speed.
break.
But I mean, who put the explosives there? Is it
Oh,
like
so that's the thing I don't want to debate. I don't
Okay,
know.
okay.
I don't know those. I
Yeah.
don't know the answers. I don't know the question. I don't know any of those things. There's theories out there. I don't know those theories, but I don't know. I don't.
But it's not necessarily an alien kind of.
No,
theory.
it's nothing to do with
this
aliens.
This is just.
But this is also
9/11.
this like
Totally.
the government lying to you, or like.
Oh yeah.
right,
That's where I'm
right.
getting back to.
No,
Like,
I believe
Right.
we were lied to for sure.
Oh, I think that we're constantly lied to.
Well, I mean,
That's why I don't trust any information that comes my way unless there's some
and
actual real evidence.
There's been major conventions outside of the United States discussing 9/11 and about what actually happened, and like
because it's such a huge
It's-
pivotal
Again,
point.
again, this
Earth's
is all.
history.
This could also be a case of revisionist history. people-
Eventually, yeah, it will come out.
No, revisionist history.
What do you mean? Explain.
Say it's an actual thing that happened, and everything that we saw on September 11th that's exactly what happened. And then now we're not finding out necessarily more truths. We're just inventing more possibilities for what actually happened.
Possibilities. So, when you say what happened and reasoning, that's two different things. So
I didn't say reasoning.
Okay, so what happened would happen. Nothing's going to change about what happened. You're never going to change the fact
Well,
that
the reasons-
No. The
reasons
reasons
that it
behind it, I
happened,
see. Yeah, the
that
reasons
will-
behind it.
that
the
will-
speculation
so
about
that can always change. Yeah.
It always does
it
over
always does,
time.
over
Okay.
time.
So like the
Well, like-
JFK's bullet spinning around and doing all that
Like
crazy
let's
shit
say
that they said.
here's
happened.
an interesting.
Again, it's what they said that happened.
Yeah,
it's
fuck
like-
that.
and-
There's no in hell that shit happened.
We've had a lot of revisionist history, for instance, over like mythological events, probably, right? Like this was what was accepted for many years, and then
Well, then there's
and then we invent new reasons for why this was.
in some
viewed or-
cases, yes, but in other cases, we've got technological advances that allow us to see further into space, or to, do advanced DNA testing where they didn't have that possibility or that ability back then, or other forensic technologies that have advanced over the years, they revisit it and then they're like, well, this is actually what happened. As opposed to throwing out fucking bunk theories or potentially true ones and then saying, well, what we thought was true then, it wasn't. This is a revision of that history.
Okay.
So how am I supposed to fucking trust anyone?
So you don't know anything then. You can't believe shit.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier. I don't trust anything.
How do you navigate the world?
I guess like a blind mouse.
Fuck.
It's not easy.
Yeah, you smell the food, you eat it. You know.
Does it really exist in front of you?
No. Nothing does.
Just the beer that goes inside you. Then I know this
That
shit,
doesn't either.
This shit is real. Oh, it's fake beer. Like,
Yeah, it's near beer.
all right, guys.
Damn it.
We're deep.
All right.
Oh,
We're
just
done.
getting stupid. All right.
I want to wrap this up. So we've kind of just poked holes in this whole story, and we really didn't get pretty much anywhere. But I did state the story. I'll probably revisit this story other times on this podcast. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thanks for listening this long. Thank you to Chris, Austin, and Kenan.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you very much.
And just remember to just be easy.